record.
Okay, guys, welcome to the show once again. And I think a very happy day for Indian cricket fans, and I think overall cricket fans also. Fourth inning chase, coming through 328 uh, in Gabba on the fifth day, a pitch full of cracks against a bowling attack that comprised Mitchell Stark, Pat Cummins, Josh Hazelwood, the modern day Glenn McGrath, according to me, and the great off spinner Nathan Lyon. Uh, Despite all odds, half the Indian team back either injured or in India due to different issues. But this young Indian squad made it through without massive contributions from either Rohit Sharma. There was no Rohit Sharma angle. There was no big Ajinkya Rahane angle from a batting perspective. So it was all the young Indian brigade, and obviously on the cornerstone of uh, the, the slowest ever half century by Cheteshwar Pujara, with about 200 balls he played. But I think what a beautiful innings he played today. Absolutely courageous innings. The sort of body blows that he took, I think my respect to him. Uh, in the show today with me, obviously, my usual partner in crime, Dipanjan, but we have a very special guest today. Uh, he has a very impressive resume, but I can only speak so much about him. Uh, he's one of the best cricket writers in India. He's a former chief editor at Cricket Country, and one of the foremost contemporary cricket historians. With a lot of respect and love, I welcome Abhishek Da to the show. Welcome, Abhishek Da.
I,
Hi. So, Didi, first of all, once again, I will follow the usual format. I have given what I was feeling in a short summary, but then over to you for your first initial reactions. Historic, not just historic, I think it is one of those moments that changes beliefs in teams. A similar moment happened when we won the Perth Test match. And I think another similar moment has happened when we have won Gabba this time around. Highly improbable. So over to you for your first reactions.
my first reaction is, as in after a long time as an Indian cricket fan, tears fell from my eyes. I know I'll bring in Abhishek Mukherjee into the conversation shortly, but from whatever I have followed Indian cricket and from whatever I have studied Indian sporting history, I think this win in terms of overall impact in Indian sporting history can only be paralleled by Mohan Bagan's victory in the 1911 IFA Cup, IFA Shield. Both due to absolutely different circumstances. But my first reaction is perhaps this is India's greatest ever test win and test series win. And in terms of an overall sporting context, bringing in social perspective of Indian sport, perhaps India's win in the 1948 Olympics in hockey over Great Britain had a huge social connotation because we were playing against our colonial masters just after independence. But as per me, the only victory that kind of comes close uh, in over 100 years of Indian sporting history would be Mohan Bagan's victory uh, over the East York Regiment in 1911 IFA Shield. With that, I would actually, I'm just happy, and to be honest, this still hasn't sunk in. I would be absolutely honest in admitting that I was hoping for an Indian win. I was, no, but I wasn't thinking that India would win, right? So with that, I would actually want to hear from Abhishek Mukherjee your first thoughts, as well as where do you place this victory in the context of Indian cricket history, and as well as cricket history that you have studied and cricket you have watched.
Indian cricket history, I can think of only the 1971 series in England. There are a few things. That was a very strong England side. I mean, England at that particular point was probably the best team in the world. So, so that is one thing. Secondly, beating England in England was a huge thing at that point. I'll tell you why. Because this was the first generation that had uh, that had grown up in independent India. the 1971 team, they have almost everyone had grown up in independent India. So that means, I mean, they were a confident lot. They have heard about but they needed something to. I mean, they must have heard from their parents that the British did this, the British did that. There must have been some determination in them to prove, okay, this is what we can do to the British in England at their sport. So yeah, that had a social impact. Also, I cannot help but think of the people, of the Indians who had been involved in the freedom struggle. They also had they also wanted a message like this to be sent across. So yes, in terms of social history, I think that had an impact. The other thing is, let us not forget that England side was a very good team as well. So apart from the social aspect, I mean, it was an excellent win. In terms of winning outside India, yeah, I don't think this one has a parallel. I mean, overseas test wins. India won in 2001 at home. That was against a better Australian side, especially in terms of batting, but that was at home. So overseas, this has to be the best.
Absolutely. And also, I also feel that why this win becomes so, unprecedented in the history of Indian sport is that you're going into, of course, there are statistics around Brisbane, and which has not, the Gabba has not been, the Australia's dominance at Gabba has not been broken since 1988 and all of those things. But if you look at the composition of the team, right? The team that we started the tour and with the first test and this test had only 2 players which are common, right? Abhishek would be able to say like 20 players in a series. I don't know how many times we have used 20 players in a series.
This is the record for an overseas series.
Yeah.
The record for a home series is 30, but that was at home. Home, you always have the advantage of calling up players. I mean, if someone is injured or someone needs to be replaced, he can even be in the same city, or he can drive down overnight or something. So at home, it is easier to arrange for larger squads. Overseas, the player needs to be there if there's a last minute replacement. So this is the overseas record. I think India, when Pakistan toured India in 1952-53, there were 26 Indians playing, but again, that was at home. That is the Indian record. But away from home, this is the record.
1952-53 series would have been, players perhaps dropped because of performance, perhaps dropped because of, form, or perhaps dropped because
in that era, selections were sometimes random, whimsical. Towards the end of the decade, India had, remember, 6 captains in 7 tests.
Yes.
So it was slightly random. I mean, BCCI was not yet, as structured as it is today. So yes. But
and more importantly, I think what happens in this test is, I think it will take time for all of us to digest what has happened and kind of, come up with something. Because if you look at it, none of us would have predicted a series win for India after Adelaide. None of us. It was impossible.
Before the series, I had predicted a 4-0 whitewash for Australia.
Yes. And many of us would have, right? Many of us would have.
And this was confirmed after Adelaide, the Australia winning 4-0. I did not predict anything remotely close to that. If someone told me that India will win this series, that too with more than half the side out of action, I would have laughed on their face. I am being honest about this. I did not remotely come to believing this.
Yeah,
exactly. That is the first reaction I wanted to hear, because I have to go down to pages of history. I can't remember anything.
There's been nothing like this.
There has been nothing. Not just in fact, even if you look at other sporting history, The one thing that perhaps closely resembles this is the miracle on ice in the 1980 Olympics, where basically a US college team led by Harv Brooks beat the Soviet team, which had won, I think, 6 of the last 7 Olympic gold medals. I know
Yeah.
this is a huge comparison, but if I
No, no,
go
no.
back to a team sport comparison, I, I doubt, because this is not a T20 match.
Uh-huh.
You are playing 15, I think 4 consecutive innings. India has played over 100 overs.
Yes, that must be it.
Correct.
Australia has probably the best bowling attack in the world, but they failed to pick up 20 wickets in 3 consecutive tests. India batted last every time.
Yes,
So yes,
absolutely.
it was that good.
It was that good, and I think we will come down to the individual performances. But I think as an Indian, as an Indian cricket fan, as an Indian sports lover, I think we must tip our hat to this group of people. And of course, it has not come in one day, right? You
No, no.
have to credit the BCCI. You have to credit this group of individuals who have also been playing the IPL. I will say something. I don't know. I might be wrong, but Abhishek Mukherjee, I just want to hear from you around this thought. When you saw this body language of a Shardul Thakur or a Washington Sundar playing at Brisbane at a test where, perhaps they might play their only test in their life. We don't know what happens when the other people come back into the squad. I could not see a sense of fear of occasion of them.
Yeah.
And I think the IPL has to play a very, very critical role in this.
Shubman Gill has shared dressing room with
Pat Cummins.
Pat Cummins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why should there be fear? He has traveled with him for 2 months. Why there shouldn't be any fear? They were teammates. He has faced him day after day in the nets.
Yes.
So he's a known enemy. I mean,
Absolutely.
the same holds. And in IPL, see, I had a word with about 4 or 5 years ago. I asked VVS Lakshman a question: why are IPL records so important when selecting tests? Why is IPL so important? Why do we look? Why is performing in the IPL this important? He told me, see, Ranji Trophy is extremely important. It is the backbone of our structure. But in IPL, what we see is how confident a player is, basically a new player is against a Dale Steyn. How confident is he when taking on Dale Steyn? If you are if you have a very good record, but the name, but a big name intimidates you, then then probably there needs to be some work done. Similarly, if you're bowling to AB de Villiers, and if that bothers you, so that confidence level that IPL provides them with, and that is also tested there.
Absolutely.
How comfortable they are in playing against the biggest names in world cricket. So here what happened? Also, additionally, they seem like they have been waiting. Shardul Thakur had been waiting for this chance for years. Had I been him, I can't speak for him, but had I been him, I would have started giving up hope of playing another test. So now that it's here, he more than surpassed all expectations. I remember on day one when he was trying to, he tried to bowl as fast as quick as possible, but his pace was probably not probably. He's not as quick as Bumrah or Shami, but he kept on and on. He did not relent. In the second innings, we saw what happened. In the first innings, he even left for a while, but he just. And then the first innings partnership between Sundar and Thakur, none of them had ever played in Test cricket. One is making his debut, the other is playing his second Test. So none of them had played bowling of this level in red ball cricket. So that partnership demonstrated how fearless this Indian team is. They do not hesitate in taking on the best bowling attack.
Absolutely, and I think Kirti, if you remember, I was talking always about the mental aspect of game, because I also bring in my professional expertise around studying human behavior. Uh, uh, you have to give it to this team management, because it is we have to study, or we have to, only Ravi Shastri and the entire team management knows how they have managed to do this. And there was a method in this madness. It is not that somebody came and somebody kept hitting, and somebody, you just don't take 20 wickets, Australian
No, no.
wickets, for joke. In this, if you ask me what is the biggest plus I would you take at this of this test in isolation, if somebody would have told me that this Indian bowling lineup is taking 20 Australian wickets at the Gabba, I would have taken it. Only this. Of course,
Yeah,
India's fourth innings is something else. But
They
but
did
I
not.
think
They did not take 20 wickets between them before the test. The entire attack.
yeah,
I
13
think they took
wickets,
yes,
sir.
13.
absolutely.
13
Yes.
wickets.
Yes,
They took 20
yes,
here.
yes. They took 20 here. So
And
I think these people themselves still haven't realized what they have done. It will take a lot of time for this to sink in. But Kirti, I want to come back to you on something that we have discussed quite a bit. Uh, what do you feel around two things? One is how Rishabh Pant managed and paced his innings, and how Cheteshwar Pujara did what Pujara has to do the
oh my
best.
God, I mean,
Abhishek, I'd also want to like to hear from you after Kirti shares this.
I can only talk on and on about Cheteshwar Pujara, just like he bats on and on. And I know that I think uh, in Sydney, after the first innings, I was not very pleased with the way Pujara was batting. And it was not about the strike rate or how slow or how fast he was batting, but it was about the lack of shot making. So today also, while Pujara played a slowish innings, the slowest of his career, in fact, um, he still played the shots when the ball was there to be played. He played aerial cuts, utilizing the bounce of Gabba. He played a couple of half pulls of Nathan Lyon, which trickled down to fine leg or to square leg and things like that. So it is about the exhibition of intent, sometimes interspersed with the sort of defensive. Pujara has a very agricultural defensive game. He's not got a stylish defensive game like a Rahul Dravid or a Sachin Tendulkar. He's got a really agricultural way of defending things. Even today, like when Pujara got LBW, his bat was pointed towards mid wicket while defending, and we have discussed this on so many occasions, that why his bat is slanted so much for a top order number three sort of a batsman. But I think that's the way he plays, and it is absolutely so. And I will basically say, Didi, that today I witnessed, at least in my viewing experience of about 20-25 years now of watching cricket, I witnessed one of the best defensive batting against true fast bowling on a deteriorating pitch. It is not easy to face the kind of bowling that Pat Cummins and Josh Hazelwood were doing, especially the short pitch stuff that they served to Cheteshwar Pujara. I think he got hit 10 times on his body.
8 to 10 times, and I
Correct.
think
He got,
I don't know if you have read an article by a New Zealand cricket writer where they have shared a point that it can be a pseudo ploy by Australia to target the Indian body,
yeah.
and they have injured a lot of players, right? I don't know where it comes to body line or something. I don't know that, but uh, it has been
See,
a dedicated
that,
ploy by Australia to target the body.
See, that aside, I mean, that could be a part of the strategy. What I'm trying to say is that the defensive game that Pujara brought in, because see, you can have a strategy around bowling short, but then it also takes a toll on the fast bowlers. In the last 10 overs, on the last 15 overs,
Yeah,
Australian bowlers did not have any feet. They were like an exhausted boxer in round number 12 or round number 15. And all
correct.
it needed was a little push by, Rishabh Pant. If their fielders were not able to run and, cover for simple catches that otherwise they would have taken. So that is the kind of impact that inning has. Numerically, you can never ever actually find out the impact of Cheteshwar Pujara's slowest half century of his career today. And now coming to Rishabh Pant, I think for me, the far most impressive part of Pant's batting was the restraint that he showed against Nathan Lyon when Nathan Lyon was bowling to a defensive field. He was floating the ball outside the off stump, and Rishabh Pant continued to leave for about 40 to 45 minutes. And I was almost in my seat thinking that next ball, possibly he will play a swat to mid wicket and get out, but he just did not play the shot. So for me, that was the most impressive part of Rishabh Pant's inning. See, the guy is a brilliant hitter of the ball. He will fall, he will be out of balance, but he will hit you. He only needs to know and learn when to hit, which ball to hit. So this is
Absolutely,
what I thought
absolutely.
about Pant
And
and Pujara.
before
See,
Abhishek Mukherjee just goes into this Pant and Pujara, I just want to share one thing. Uh, a few days back, Times of India brought out an article around Rishabh Pant where I'm forgetting his coach's name, who his personal coach's name, I think, who had said that in Roorkee, due to the COVID restrictions, poor guy, did not have facility to train for, and in the last 4 months with the IPL, he has not only become more and more fitter, but I think with this, I think he has finally got the confidence that he needed to. And I think, of course, we have shared in isolation that there is no doubt about Rishabh Pant, the batsman, but Rishabh Pant, the keeper, needs to improve. And I think this whole match and this whole innings and this whole thing will give him that confidence to Rishabh Pant, the keeper, as well. So Abhishek, your thoughts on Pant and Pujara today?
first Pujara, see, I am not. I have always believed that we know that to win matches you need to take 20 wickets, and to take 20 wickets the bowlers need time, and for that you need to score quickly. That is, I mean, all great teams have scored quickly.
Yeah,
You cannot win matches on a consistent basis by playing defensive cricket. But in this case, we had seen 2 years ago that this method had worked for Pujara. He, this is a tried and tested method for him, and the team clearly wanted him to do exactly that, to do what he is best at. I know there's been a lot of talk about his lack of intent and everything, but he is there to perform a role that he has been assigned to be around for as long as possible. He batted slower than in 2018. Australia
yeah,
were better prepared,
yeah,
but he was there. It was clear that he was batting according to a pre-planned role, and that I mean, he just did not throw it away. Almost every time you had to bowl a special delivery to get him.
yeah, yeah,
There's been, I read somewhere, I think Siddharth Munga wrote this. Why does Pujara get so many special deliveries? Because he outlasts the ordinary deliveries.
yeah,
At
Correct.
some point, he will face a special delivery. So yes, I think in Kohli's absence, you needed someone to play that role, especially in a side that is playing five batsmen.
Yes,
So yes,
absolutely.
Pujara carried his role to perfection. I think the other about Pant, I have been a huge fan of Pant from his Ranji Trophy and IPL days, early Ranji Trophy, when I used to follow his Ranji Trophy performance on the internet, that fastest 100 on Indian soil, triple 100, everything. And then IPL. So, see, Pant, the question is, Pant is not the best wicketkeeper in the country. This, a lot of people will agree. But the question is, does he make it as a batsman alone? He scored he scored 350 runs in Australia last time in 7 innings. He did well here. He has a fourth innings 100 at the Oval. I mean, I remember this. India were 4 down for nothing, almost nothing. Then and Pant came out, and he and Rahul
yeah,
took the match to a situation where India had actually started thinking of a win at tea on the last day. So this
Yes.
is not new to him. He has done this before. He did this at Sydney. but this was the most controlled innings of the lot.
Yes.
He
Yes.
knew that he had to do it, and he did it. He, as you mentioned, he paced the innings well, but two shots stand out. One is that against the turn
Six.
six over wide lawn, and the other one was that falling sort of
Sweep.
scoop shot.
Yeah.
And later, when the match was almost over, he just swiveled around and
Fell
fell
and
over, but
yes.
Fell
hit a
out.
four somehow.
Yeah.
So yes, these shots he can play, but see, but he held them back. I mean, until it was almost necessary. And these are special shots. These are not easy to play at all. The other thing is, one mistake we make is we assume that a natural hitter cannot play defensive cricket. This has time and again been proved wrong by a lot of people. De Villiers we have seen, Tendulkar we have seen. They are, I mean, they when required they could hold one end up. I mean, it is wrong to assume that a big hitter cannot hold one end up. He can. We have seen Jayasurya play those long innings. So yes,
Yes.
I mean, and Pant, I believe, is mature enough to do this. He has a triple hundred in first class cricket. You cannot have a triple hundred in first class cricket without having the vision to play long innings. He had a 150. I mean, he has been doing this for some time. And the point is, Pant gets criticized so much for two reasons. One is his wicket keeping, and two is his lack of quality innings in limited overs international
Yeah.
matches. None of these should define his achievement. None of this has anything to do with his performances with the bat in Test cricket.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
these are independent factors. So why should that depend? I
And
And
in
I
think
think
fact,
Pant.
and in fact,
think
before kind of
DD and I had discussed this, that Rishabh Pant has a very Virender Sehwag kind of a streak to his game, where we basically discussed that he is possibly more well suited for the red ball cricket.
Yeah.
Where
Yes.
where his the ROI on his stroke play will fetch him more runs versus a white ball scenario where people will say block one side of the field and continue to bowl defensively at Rishabh Pant, knowing that he will go for the shots and he will eventually either get out or not play such a great innings. So
And he
yeah,
is good enough. He is good enough to play as a specialist batsman. There's no
yeah,
doubt about this. Even if there is
absolutely.
another wicketkeeper,
Yes, and,
this is
and and in
something
fact,
This is something I've been insisting on for a lot of time, for a long time, and it will happen at some point. If one's wicket keeping does not improve drastically, this will happen at some point.
but then I just hope that Pant's wicket keeping improves. The
Yes,
reason is that
it
the
will.
reason is that he he's a gem of you become a wicket keeping all rounder then, right? And your position in the team is as a batsman,
yeah,
and
Yes, yes.
and you don't
Yeah.
play the role that Rahul Dravid had done, because for Rahul Dravid wicket keeping did not come naturally. He did it because, as Harsha Bhogle said, right, if you ask Dravid to walk on glass, he will do that. So somewhere down the line, that can be trained. And as they say in behavioral economics, in applied psychology, there are certain things which are trainable. There are certain things which are natural talent. Pant's ability as a batsman is natural talent. He has skill as a wicketkeeper. There are certain things he needs to improve. I'm not a technical person to suggest that, but there are enough coaches in the country, so that I think that as a psychology student, Rishabh Pant will get a lot of confidence, and I hope this confidence reflects in his IPL performance.
and Didi, I think not only that, the presence of Rishabh Pant, what it does to opposition, like in today's match, the sort of defensive fields that Australia had was because of the fear of Rishabh Pant, that they could not afford to have a aggressive field against him. If you remember,
Yes,
he very well edged a ball between the slips and gully region very early in his innings. He gave a couple of chances, but people say that those chances went away. But meanwhile, those chances went away because of the fear that Rishabh Pant generates. Is that they needed to cover the boundary, and there can only be so many fielders on the field, right? And they were trying to optimize between attacking Rishabh Pant versus defending the runs. And that is where, all the attacking players like Pant, or even a Virender Sehwag, Adam Gilchrist used to feed off it so many times. Is that when Adam
See,
Gilchrist would come into bat, there would be one deep point immediately, one deep long on, one square leg. So obviously you're taking out your attacking options from slips and gully, and then he would edge a couple from that region and then go on to score a quick 60, 70, 80, a match changing kind of an innings.
I think in also want to just bring in one point. If you remember, Kirti, very early in our our discussion, the one thing that perhaps gives me so much of hope is something that I went to Shillong with to a place near Shillong with one of my friends and group of friends, and I said that I have to wake up to watch the future of Indian cricket bat, and I said Shubman Gill was that, and what an innings he played. In between Pant and Pujara, I think we're forgetting an innings that Shubman Gill displayed of utmost maturity, and it felt that he has been playing Test cricket for years now, right?
Yeah.
And I also feel that one of the reasons this whole team is playing so freely is because they are not carrying any past baggage, right?
unless something drastic happens, Shubman Gill should score 10,000 runs in Test cricket.
Absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely. I in fact can't agree more to you. And there is something that I say with Rohit Sharma. I was telling to one of my close friends in the US that I slept at 1:30 a.m. yesterday, and I woke up to watch Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill bat because you somehow feel good about the way they score runs.
Yeah.
Shubman Gill also brings in that. Rohit Sharma, of course, I don't think there is a prettier side in cricket than watching Rohit Sharma in full flow. But somewhere he needs to do something on his Test match cricket too.
See,
Kind
I
of.
think Didi,
no, no.
in
If he doesn't, you saw what happened to Mayank. I
yeah,
mean, if he doesn't, then Mayank will replace him at the top. The contest is too intense, and
absolutely,
I mean, be rest assured that Prithvi Shaw will be back at some point.
absolutely.
He too is too gifted a cricketer. Mitchell Stark might have figured it out how to go through his defense, but he's too so gifted that he'll sort this out and be back. So
And
there,
I,
and remember, the middle order is already packed.
yeah,
Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane. Pant is a specialist batsman. Vihari will try to make a push. Jadeja is now as good as any batsman. So there is absolutely no space for
and we haven't
complacency.
even
There's
talked
This
about
brings me to
KL
two
Rahul.
questions. This brings me to two questions. Okay, one is to Abhishek Mukherjee, bringing in the historical perspective. Do you think that at this point of time, if everyone is is fit in India, India can field two Test teams like England did in the early 1930s?
yeah.
Yeah,
If everyone is fit, this team is good enough to beat Australia in Australia that we saw. The rest can take on England at home.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And yeah, go ahead, please.
yeah, I mean, there's a parallel team ready.
yeah,
Take on England at home.
And as an Indian cricket fan, did you ever imagine that you will see this in Test
No,
cricket? I did not. I
never,
did not.
never.
a
And my second.
second string pace attack with four pace bowlers bowling out Australia in Australia at Brisbane twice is something
Yeah.
I never saw I would see in my lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, almost a gully cricketer a few months ago, T. Natarajan, was swinging the ball away from middle stump. It was incredible to see the sort of controlled bowling that T. Natarajan was doing. He took three wickets in the first innings. He was the highest wicket taker for India. I was just astonished to see the quality of his outswing. It was brilliant to see when Rohit Sharma was just pleading Natarajan to just bowl in the line of the stumps. He was getting such beautiful outswing and late outswing. It was not like very predictable, very early swing. So I mean, only God knows what has happened
He
to
has
the
been
England.
dropped. He
Yeah,
has been dropped
yeah.
for
I
the
just saw.
England series.
Yes,
But he has been dropped, and you can't blame anyone for him
Yes,
getting dropped. That is the
absolutely.
problem.
But Abhishek Mukherjee, if I ask you, Kirti Anand as well, at this point of time, if I have to ask you, what is the best Indian 11 in Test cricket? What will be your 11?
that's a very tough one,
Both of you
DD.
take it. Yeah, you can take your minute. I think I have my 11, but I'm just asking at this point of time, what is your best 11 in Indian cricket, in
DD,
Test cricket?
you should have given us this question a little heads up so that
Let us have Ashwin and Jadeja playing.
Yeah.
Yes,
On
yes,
Indian
absolutely.
soil, on Indian soil, let us also have a third spinner. So that is Sundar. We have figured that out. And if Ashwin, Jadeja, and Sundar all play, then India do not need. Then India can play five bowlers comfortably because all three are Jadeja and Sundar we saw, and Ashwin also we know.
Huh.
He was losing form, but we saw what he is capable of. So that gives you three spinners. Now
In
I can't
fact, that
see.
also gives us three spinners with three decent batsmen.
Yeah, three spin bowling all rounders. So if Bumrah and Shami are fit, then Bumrah and Shami probably play
Yeah.
as the lead pacers, which means Siraj sits out.
And Ishant sits out, unfortunately.
Despite Siraj was India's leading wicket taker in this series,
Yeah.
Yes.
and he will probably have to sit out if India play two fast bowlers and Shami and Bumrah are both fit.
Yes.
So yeah, that is the
And
situation.
who will be your top six
And
in the
and if you play five bowlers, this also means you're leaving out Saha.
yes,
Yes.
you have to.
So your wicket keeper is Pant.
One
Now you're still not done. So if you give Rohit and Rohit
Gill.
Gill, Rohit and Gill both.
The
Rohit and
opening
Gill
slot.
should get an extended run.
Yeah.
Now we come down. Pujara and Kohli are
And
probably.
Rahane.
We don't need. But the question is, Mayank Agarwal. He averages 100 on Indian soil. Where do we put him? Over the past year, around 2019, we saw Mayank Agarwal demolish any spin attack at home. He hit huge sixes. So where do we place him?
But
What
again,
about
this is
Rahane? Despite leading India to a series win, does Rahane have a certain place? Is Pujara a certainty at home?
as per
Will
me, yes,
Rohit
but
keep? Will Rohit Will Rohit, Mayank, and Shubman all fit in?
we don't know. It's a very
Yeah.
difficult.
If you play five batsmen and you have these many, remember we are not even thinking of Hanuma Vihari
Yeah.
Exactly.
to
What
play
has the
the
poor guy
best
done to
inning.
not find a place in the
Yes, we are not considering thinking about
KL
Prithvi
Rahul.
Shaw
KL
and
Rahul?
Rahul. I mean, you cannot make an 11 with this.
Let's just do
Yeah,
two
that's what I'm
teams.
saying. It's very difficult to make an Indian 11, and that's why my first
Did,
question to you was: do you think India can field two
DD,
Test teams?
let's make two teams so that so many players can have good careers and at least the cricketing world can see so many players from India. Well,
That's
but
unfortunately not.
No, wait, Kuldeep Yadav.
Yes, I just
Okay, and
wanted your viewpoint on Kuldeep Yadav, because I know before when the match was being when the team 11 was announced, a lot of people were saying. I think in fact Ajit Agarkar on air has said that Kuldeep Yadav selection uh, was needed and it was harsh to him. Otherwise,
but
why
it
are you
was
keeping him?
Sundar's batting.
I think it was
Saw the difference Sundar's batting did.
Absolutely.
did he see?
And
Yeah, Abhishek, go ahead.
yeah, so the thing is, see, none of us has seen how good Kuldeep is at this point. What we saw him, what we saw of him was before the Test series. Mostly, what we remember is him getting dropped from the KKR side.
Yeah.
So we have not seen him at the nets. That is something the team management has done.
Yeah.
Nobody else has. So obviously they have seen something that made them not pick Kuldeep Yadav. Remember, it was the same management. Ajinkya Rahane was the one under whom Kuldeep made his debut. Ravi
Dharamshala,
Shastri was the one who predicted a long career for Kuldeep 2 years ago at Sydney.
Sydney, correct.
These were the people who decided to leave him out, so they must have seen something in the net where something in the net that points at Kuldeep probably not being good enough to make it to the 11. Also, had they gone in with another combination, had they stuck to four bowlers, then Kuldeep might have been the sole spinner. Think about it. Had they also picked someone like Prithvi Shaw and they went in with four bowlers, then Kuldeep might have been picked. Now, if you need 5 bowlers, you needed to pick Sundar and Shardul. Otherwise, you do not have a team.
Absolutely.
Because
I think
Kuldeep is
And
not a
imagine
number 8
Shardul Thakur.
batsman.
Imagine Shardul Thakur might just end up to be the greatest one test wonder in the history of test cricket.
7 wickets, and he has played a test before, but
two
that
test
is
wonder.
Two test wonders, sorry.
two test
Yeah.
wonder. So 7 wickets and 50 runs.
That could
Yeah.
be
7 wickets
Washington
and a
Sundar.
50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an amazing
Now that
one
also
test
brings me to
performance.
one very, very
Already,
interesting
I will just add a point
yeah.
here, on the Sundar and why it was harsh on Kuldeep Yadav. So I think, see, uh, uh, with the limited resources that India had to sort of cover all the bases. They had to cover for the lack of batsmen. They also had to simultaneously cover for the lack of bowlers. And I think that is where the combination of Shardul and Sundar, while in the hindsight, it is very easy to make those statements. But even before getting into the test match, if they were to decide saying that okay, at Brisbane, because this is not Sydney, this is Brisbane. At Brisbane, if I need controlled off spin or controlled slow bowling to sort of check the run flow or slow down the Australians, will I go for a Kuldeep Yadav or will I go for a Washington Sundar? In my head, the answer is absolutely bang on. It is Washington Sundar because Kuldeep Yadav is a leg spinner. We know that his control is maybe 80 90 here or there, but he's a genuine wicket taker, no doubts about that. At the same time, say if we needed another 20-25 run contribution from the lower order, will I go for a Kuldeep Yadav or will I go for a Washington Sundar? So net potentially, we thought that in Brisbane maybe, if it were to be some other slow Australian pitch, possibly Kuldeep would have played. But at Brisbane, they thought that with the bounce and everything, maybe Washington Sundar will bowl better. He's a tall fellow. He darts the ball in, and you never know with the bounce. Sometimes it works for the taller spinners, and it did for Washington Sundar. And in fact, Washington Sundar should have had Steve Smith both the innings. If Siraj did not drop Steve Smith on 41, Washington Sundar would have had him in both the innings and beaten in the air. It is not that,
Sundar's batting.
and then obviously Sundar's batting in both the innings. You see, it is the clear differentiator. So I mean, it worked the way the Indian team planned for it. So kudos if your planning basically goes in your
Yes.
favor. So it worked. But to me also, if my resources are limited, I think I will do a little bit of a patchwork in Sanjay Manjrekar's language, bits and pieces cricketers. But these are the bits and pieces cricketers with enough depth for Indian Test cricket right now who have beaten Australia in Australia at the Gabba. So I am extremely happy.
See,
I
the
would
other thing is
yeah.
India did exactly the same in the second test. They picked
Yeah.
Jadeja. They replaced Kohli with Jadeja.
Yeah.
That was a see, a team has been bowled out for 36. On 99 out of 100 cases, if Kohli leaves, they'll bring in another batsman,
Yeah.
Yeah.
another specialist batsman. That was an enormous risk that India took. They made a double change. They replaced Saha with Pant and they replaced Kohli with Jadeja. So they compromised on batting at one end and gained that back with Pant instead of Saha. In the process, they had another extra bowler and they lost out on some wicket keeping skills. So this was these were the two trade-offs
Absolutely.
that they did. And this paid off because Jadeja got vital runs. Pant played a cameo, but more importantly, Umesh it was right.
Yeah.
Umesh broke down, and
Yeah.
Jadeja could bowl crucial overs.
Yes.
So yes, I mean the trade-off paid off, but it might have backfired. Jadeja's bowling might not have been required at all on that surface, because had Umesh been fit, Bumrah, Umesh, and Siraj
Siraj.
might have, and Ashwin might have done the bowling. So yes, some selections are well thought out, but yeah, they also need to click.
Couple of things I would just want to kind of last, a couple of two important things I thought was important for us to discuss. Number one, that I was mightily impressed. I know we've talked about what happens to the composition of the team when England plays India at Chennai. with Kohli back in the side and all of those. But I was mightily impressed with Ajinkya Rahane, the captain. His mannerisms, which was reflected from from me watching it on TV, and the way he marshaled his resources. And second is Abhishek Mukherjee. I would want you to bring in a little bit of experience on Ranji Trophy, of having watched and in fact written about Ravi Shastri. Australia has a special significance in the life of Ravi Shastri, right? From 1985 to 1992 to 2018 to 2021. You have to give it to, I know some, the trolls and all of those things, but you have to give it to that man.
Of course.
To marshal these resources and to have that grit there was a line on Siraj.
You forgot 2014-15 World Cup, where he was the team director. India bowled out every team until they reached the semi-final.
Yes.
Okay. And in that World Cup, India did not win or reach the final, but the fact is that India, Australia and New Zealand all lost exactly one match. India's defeat just came in the semi-final.
And I think in that match also, if Shikhar Dhawan was not out, if Shikhar Dhawan would not have got out, India had a brilliant start with Dhawan and Rohit, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they got out in deep cover.
All three teams were close. India played very good cricket throughout that World Cup. And then 2018. A lot of Indian fans, I know, have a lot of things to say about Shastri. When Shastri said after the 2018 win, Shastri said something about this being the greatest moment in Indian history, ahead of the 1983 World Cup and the 1985 World Championship.
Yes. World Championship, yeah.
So he took a lot of criticism. What we failed to acknowledge was, he was the only person who was there with the team on all three occasions.
Yeah,
he was the only one. Yeah, so he knows what it is like to win. He had been with an underdog side in the 1983 World Cup. He had been with a strong side 2 years later. He has been through the ups and downs of Indian cricket. Throughout the 1980s, the Indian team had a pattern. In Australia, England, West Indies, Pakistan, whenever India toured, Shastri was asked to open. Back home, the moment India returned home, Shastri was demoted to 6. This was a pattern. Shastri either opened or batted in the top 3. Throughout most of his career, the moment India stepped outside India, Shastri scored hundreds in West Indies in the top 3, 100 in Pakistan, 200s in the same series in England, a double hundred in Australia, all of which came while batting in the top 3, and he started off as a tail-ender. So Shastri knows what it is to get the most out of limited resources.
Absolutely.
And we can see that.
Yes.
Nobody knows this better than Shastri in Indian cricket.
And in fact, if you see his stints with Bombay Ranji Trophy as well, right? He was part of that.
He led India only once in the Chennai Test of '87. India had 3 debutants in that test. He knows how to handle inexperienced cricketers. India gave test caps to Ajay Sharma, W.V. Raman and Hirwani. Yes. He knows what it is like to get the best out of inexperienced cricketers. And that showed.
It showed, absolutely. You have to give it to him. I know that, there are a lot of sports documentaries made around teams and all. I hope somebody is listening to us and makes a documentary of this series, because it deserves. It deserves. And I can say with, there is no accuracy here, but I can say with confidence that this has to be one of the top 5 sporting moments in our country. I know that there are Olympic golds to savor. There are, there is a World Cup to win. Because Test cricket is Test cricket. There are a lot of things. There is the World Cup '83. There is Abhinav Bindra's gold. There is the hockey gold. There is the near misses of P.T. Usha and Milkha Singh. There is Leander Pace. There is so many things. There is P.V. Sindhu. But this is a team sport.
Probably the most significant, most impactful were the '83 World Cup, the 2007 World T20 that changed the economy of cricket
Yes.
completely for good.
Yeah. Agreed. Without a doubt.
And Gopi Chand's title that
In
changed
fact,
probably
not
changed
Gopi Chand's
India's
title, I would say Prakash Padukone's title, because
yes, yes,
Gopi Chand, the coach, became much more impactful than
yes,
Gopi Chand, the
yes,
player.
yes.
But I think that I still don't think we are all in a proper position to analyze this, because
Yes.
I don't think it is still sunk in. But from whatever my initial measured response to remembering Indian sports history,
And also, the thing is, we have had, as a country, India have had, say, Anand's titles. Okay,
yes.
Pankaj Advani. But the thing is, these are not very popular. Do not make very popular viewership. Chess or
So irrespective of viewership,
billiards.
Vishwanathan
Yes,
Anand I still consider is India's greatest sports person. There are
yes.
people who might disagree. There is Dhyan Chand, of course. We haven't seen Dhyan Chand, but if you read the biography of uh, uh, Balbir Singh Senior by one of
Hmm.
the finest sports writers, it's a political biography. He has said that he has an argument why Balbir Singh is a greater hockey player than Dhyan Chand. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is Vishwanathan Anand is kind of the Pied Piper of a sport in India,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes,
There
yes.
is no doubt about it.
There's no
But
doubt.
here you are imagine the pressure of these people playing with so many people watching you.
Yes.
You are always under the scanner, and that unfortunately is only in cricket in India. But with so many leagues happening, you rightly mentioned that IPL opened up so many things in India. Even Thailand Open is being followed now. Other sports are also getting those dues, right? But we have to acknowledge that cricket is the most followed sport in the country, and we are proud about it. There is no denying the fact that this is a sport where we have excelled globally, and let's be honest and proud about it. And people keep on saying that, Atiki, you are only good at cricket. So what? We are good at cricket and we are proud about it. There are other things also we will be good at, and we are now becoming better at that. Having said that, I think because of the overall impact, the way this whole thing series has panned out. First of all, it is a David beating a Goliath, and more importantly, no one gave this team a chance. No, even the best of experts. Like, I know there are trolls going on
Nobody
where
did. Nobody did.
where
Nobody did.
everyone has said a 4-0, right? Everyone.
Yeah.
I know there are trolls going on, but if you ask your logical mind, you
4-0,
perhaps would have given 4-0.
3-0. I've heard 4-0. I've heard 3-0. I've heard 3-1. I've heard 2-1 Australia, but I've never heard anyone say India will win this series.
Yeah.
And with these cricketers, with an entire
Absolutely.
11
And I think
gone.
it is just a day where we all should be proud of and thankful to these guys, and absolutely to the Indian cricket system that they allowed us this day.
Yeah, and I think DD, what is really significant is that India A, that India A
I
team,
saw a statistic.
yeah, has
India has played the most A matches
most
in the past 10
exactly
years.
in the last 10 years they've played 52 first class matches across all these Sena nations and stuff like that, and the investment is showing. It takes some
Absolutely.
In
time for the
2019-20, no, or 18-19, I think, BCCI made an announcement that they had crossed the 1,000 match limit in a single domestic season.
yeah.
That is the kind of investment that is going in. The
And in
Ranji
fact,
Trophy won't be held this year for unforeseen circumstances, but I hope this is an
I think
aberration when Ranji.
they're taking a toss, right, between whether to hold the Ranji Trophy or the Vijay Hazare Trophy. I think that some debates are going on.
Vijay Hazare Trophy will get over earlier. The format is shorter, and of course, it's not a 4-day format. So yeah, I would have
Yeah,
ideally
but
preferred an entirely knockout basis Ranji Trophy, but I don't think that is likely to happen.
let's see how it pans out. But all in all, I think we are really proud of the Indian domestic structure, the Indian cricketing structure. It has democratized cricket. You're seeing, and I come from Assam, and I there is no one more prouder than me to see Riyan Parag, the way he has been batting in the or playing in the side Mustaq Ali for Assam. It's a joy to watch that kid, and I just hope coming from Assam that
Two,
one day
two
Riyan
new
Parag plays for
IPL
India.
teams will. Two new IPL teams are coming up, and I just hope one of them is in Northeast. I
Yes,
just hope
absolutely.
one of them is in Northeast.
Absolutely. And, on that note, I think it has been a pleasure talking to you, Abhishek Mukherjee, Kirtian,
Yeah.
always a pleasure to, speak with you. And one of the most historic days, 19th of January, 2021 in the history of Indian sport. I think we should all celebrate today.
Of
Absolutely.
course.
Thank
Of
you.
course.
Thank you, DD. Thank you,
Thank you.
Abhishek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.